Johnson, can you check again?
I'm even using Camtasia in recording the screen.
Okay, all right. So that means I can move on, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So we now have our basic HTML form. So the title is going to be, let's say, login or login form, any title that you want. When you finish, you have to always save it. Either you click on file and then you click on save, or you can press Control S. So, because you have to save it before the changes will reflect in the browser. So let's refresh the browser and see. Okay, so we have a login form here as the title. Good. And then, as I said, all the course or all the coding that we are going to do will be in between the body tags. That is the white space that you have here. So if you type in, let's say, anything at all and then save it and refresh it here, the browser is going to interpret this just as a plain text. But if you want to create things like paragraphs, breaks, buttons, and the rest, the browser has its own way of interpreting these tags. So if you want to create a button, there's a tag for that. If you want to create a heading, there's a tag for that. If you want to create a checkbox, there's a tag for that. So let's say you want to create a login form. You know, basically, you have the user label. That is the label showing the user that this is where you are supposed to type your username. And then you also have the one for password. And then you have the user test field and then the password test field. So if you want to create test fields, we call them inputs in HTML. You have to type inputs and then you press the tab sign. So you see we have inputs and then we have the type here and then the name here. Right now we are not going to use this name for anything because we won't add PHP in this lesson. Maybe from tomorrow onwards we'll add PHP. But the type here, that is where you are going to specify whether the input is going to be a password field, a test field, or is going to be a checkbox. So if you type in tests and then you save it, let's refresh it here. It is going to create a test field for you. So you can type in a test. Good. If you type in or if you change the type to password, make sure you save it before you refresh the browser. If you type in this, it's going to change to the dot characters that we normally see when we are typing in our password. We have checkboxes, file, and the rest. You can even type in file here if you want to create a file upload on your website. So let's refresh. So you see this, it has created this for, so you are not going to create anything. You only specify what you want in this input. So if you click on this, it is going to open the dialog box for you to select the file in which you want to upload. But right now, you are going to create the login. So we only need two test inputs. So you type in inputs, you press the tab to auto-generate the codes for you. The type of the input is tests because first name is going to, or the username is going to take tests. So you save it and then refresh it. So we have the first test field, which is going to take the username here. And then we also type another input. The second one is going to be the password. So the type is going to be password. But for instance, if you want to take in the person's first name, last name, city name, and the rest. They are all test. So all the inputs that you are going to create will take a type of test. But the second one here is going to be the password. So you type in the password to save and then refresh. You could see that the lines or the test fields has been placed side by side. This is because if you bring this test here, the browser may not understand that you want to bring this to the next line. Even if I increase the line, then save it, and then press this, still the browser might not understand. It doesn't understand white spaces. So this is what we can.
Hey guys, hello.
So where do I start from? Because the video ended and I don't know where I'm supposed to start.
Hello. I think you can continue. Continue from where you stop. That's the password. Yes. Yes.
Hello guys, can you hear me? I can't hear any voice. Oh.
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you. Just continue. Continue with the password.
Okay, all right. Okay, mute your microphone for me. Okay, so we have this.
Hello, sir. Sir,
Hello, yeah, can you hear me now?
I can't hear your voice at my end.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, yes, please. Yeah.
Okay, good. So this is going to be the input tests or the input type for password. Okay, good. And then you could see that these fields have been placed side by side. This is because the browser doesn't understand that you want to move this to the next line, just like in normal programming like C++ and then the rest. Even if I bring more white space here and then save, nothing is going to happen. Good. So if you want to move the field, this one to the next line, you have to bring another tag called the break tag. You bring the two angle brackets and then inside you type BR to break it. Let's save it and then you have this one. So it will bring this to the next line. If you want to move down again or further, you add the number of break tags that you want. These are basic HTML. In Bootstrap, we are not going to use this. So you save this and then it will move to the next line. So let's say, for instance, you want to add a label here in front of this text field, asking the user to type in or telling the user to type in uh, his or her username. And then you also bring a label telling the user to type in his or her password here. We have this input field here. When we come to the course, we have it here. So it means the label is going to be on top of this input field. So you have to bring it here. We can just use normal plain text, or we can also use the label tags. We can type in label. We press the tab to auto generate. You could see that you have label, the open tag for label, and then the closing tag for label. You could see the only difference is the forward slash here. So inside this, we type in our username. Let's save it and then refresh. So we have username here. And then the password is going to be on top of this. So you have to bring it here. You create a label. Tab, and then we type in between the tags. We type in the password. We save and then refresh. So we have our username here and then the password here. But you have to also keep in mind that we have two main types of tags. We have those with closing tags and others without any closing tags. For instance, the title here has a closing tag here. The head here has a close. We have the opening tag here and then the closing tag. The HTML has an opening tag here and then the closing tag here. The body too has an opening tag and then closing tags. But you have tags like break. They are on their own. They don't have any closing tag. There's no need for you to open break and then close it. And then you also have label. Though the label too has closing tags and then the opening tags. But if you take a look at the input has no closing tags. So it means if you want to create an input, all the properties will fall inside the opening tag. Good. So now we have a username here and then the password here. What is left is to create a button. There are two main ways of creating a button. It's either you use the input tag or you can also use the button tag. They all work fine. So we are going to start with using the input tag. So you have to first type in your inputs, you press the tab sign to auto generate, and then you type in, if you want to create a button, the type is going to be submit because you are going to create a submit button. So the type is going to be submit. Save it and then refresh. Now we have a button here, but you can see that the name is submit query. Let's say you want to change the name, but you are not going to use this name. Okay, I've told you that we only use this name when we are adding PHP to our coding. So the name you see here is the value. That is the value. So of that input. So you can change the value. You can type in value equal sign, then you bring the two quotes. So what do you want to place on top of this, or what do you want to change this name to? Let's say you want to change it to register, or somebody can say login. You can save it and then refresh. So the name is going to change to login. And then you also want to bring this button to the down parts. As I said, if you want to move to the next line, we use the break tag. So you type in BR and then tap to auto generate, or you can also type from scratch. You bring the two angle brackets and then you type in the BR and then save it. Good. So we have this to be the main login. But you can see that this is not nice. So that is where we employ CSS and then JavaScript and the rest. So at the end of the course, we are going to create a form like something like this. Good. Something like this. So you could see that we have our login, the heading here, we have the label here, the password label, and these are the fields. And this is the login button. And then at the background too, we have an image over there. So you can beautify what you've created by using Bootstrap and then CSS. Good. So now, let's say, for instance, you want to type in something here for the user to know that this is where you're supposed to type in your username, and this is where you're supposed to type in the password. Or let's say you added a telephone number and you want to guide the user on the type of that is the format of telephone number that you want. Either you want the 0244 or you want the +233 or you want 00233, for instance. So you have to type in something here. So let's say, let me add telephone number. So you have the inputs. Telephone is going to be tests. So let me save it. Can we move on?
Yeah, yes, we can move on.
Okay. All right. So I think I added the label for telephone. Let me break it here so that the rest will move to the next line. Refresh. So you have to break it again. Save and then refresh. So the label here too is going to be telephone. So we have, let's see, tel, and then we save it. So let's say, for instance, you want to type in something here. So it's not nice, but I just want you to get the concept before we start adding CSS and then Bootstrap. So let's say you want to type in something here to let the user know that this is what you want, or type in something like this. So you add placeholders. We call them placeholders. That's another property that you can add to the main tags. So placeholder. So you can say username here. Let's save and then refresh it. You could see the text here. They are just at the back of the text field. If you start typing, it will disappear. You have to do same to, let's say, the telephone placeholder. Let's say you want +233 format, so +233 233, and then others will follow. So if you refresh, that is what shows. So it will prompt the user, or it will let the user know that this is the kind of formatting that you want. When we move on with the password to inside the input tag, we have placeholder, and then you can say password here, and then refresh. So this is the main basic or the basic HTML form that we can create. using no technology, only HTML, no CSS, no Bootstrap, or no other framework. Good. So we are going to build upon this one. Good. Before we start coding in Bootstrap, you have to get a template. That is the body, the main body for Bootstrap. We can copy the link and then place it on our header here. That is all. But if you want it to be easy for you, you can just copy their template and then place it into your browser, or sorry, into your text editor. So you open your browser. Let me close this. And then you type in get bootstrap, get bootstrap. Okay, so the first link, you select get bootstrap, and then you have get started. So now you scroll down, you have the quick start, you have the CSS, we have the JavaScript file, that is JS, we have the starter templates. So you only copy this, the starter templates. Click on copy over here, and then let's clean everything, and then pasting the templates here. It's just like the normal template that we created. We have the document type to be HTML. We have the language to be English. We have the header tags, that is the opening and the closing tags. We have the title tags. We have the body tags, and then you also have some JavaScript CDN here, that is content delivery network. And then we also have this another CDN here. The reason why we copied that template was just this link and then these links over here. You can also create your own basic template and then copy the link over here and place it in your header tags. That is the link here, and then those are the down parts. But the best thing to do is just to copy the template from them and then you save it before you start coding, because without this link, you can't add Bootstrap to your coding. Bootstrap is just like CSS. It's just like CSS. We use it in beautifying. Okay, somebody said I should go back. Go back. Okay. All right. I said before you can start coding in Bootstrap, you need to get a template. I hope you understand. We can even create our own templates, just like how I taught you HTML. You press on the tab, and then what we need are just some links. We place those links in between the header tags, and then I think 5 of them are at the footer of the HTML document. But the best thing to do is to copy from their website. So you have to open your browser, you type in get bootstrap, bootstrap, and then you select the first results that will pop up in the search engine, and then you select get started, because you are now going to code in Bootstrap. Good. You scroll down, we have starter templates. So you click on the copy here, or you can select all and then you copy. But the best thing is to click on the copy here. And then when you are done, open your Sublime Text That is where we have the index.html. Then you paste it and then save. So it's just like the basic HTML that we created. We have the opening tag, the HTML opening tag here, and then the closing tag. We have the header tags also here, and then we also have the body. And you could see that in between the body, we have these links. They are JavaScript links. And then we also have this, that is a header, just a header. It will print out hello world. And then we also have the title here. That means if we launch our browser, this hello world is going to appear on top. But we just don't want that to appear. So we want to change it to login form. The reason why we copied this template was just because we needed these links here, because you can't just chew them in your head. In programming, there's no need for you to memorize everything. You just have to understand the concepts. That is all. If you try memorizing, I bet you might not understand programming, or you might not understand coding. So you just have to understand it. That is all. So we needed these links. That is why we copied the templates from Bootstrap. When we say Bootstrap, Bootstrap is just like CSS. You know, as I said, we use CSS in beautifying the content. Let's say you want to change the button size, you want to change the button color, let's say from black to blue to green, and then the rest, we use CSS. But because coding from scratch, it entails a lot. Like you need to code, if you want to change, let's say the size of a button, you can code like 4 lines before you can change a button. But Bootstrap is just a framework. It's built on top of CSS. So it means it has made coding in CSS very easy, because most of the codes has just been minified. Like for instance, if you are supposed to use 4 codes in CSS before you can beautify a button, in Bootstrap, the same coding, you can just use a single line of code to perform that particular action. So for instance, let me open the file that we created. Okay. So we have it here. Let me save it and then launch. Okay, you could see that we only have hello world here, because that is what we have in our body. So let's say you want to create a button. It's going to be input, and then the type is going to be test. Let me save it. Good. You could see how it's looking like. Let's say you want to, let me create a button, for instance, that will be clear. So you have a button. So button is going to be submit, if you could remember, submit. You could see this is just like the normal HTML that we were coding in. Let's say I want to apply Bootstrap over here. Bootstrap make use of classes. For instance, it means the codes are somewhere. The CSS codes are already somewhere, and you only call them by their class name, and they will perform the magic for you. So let's say I want to apply Bootstrap on this inputs. I'll only call the class. So I will say class. Inside the Bootstrap class, we have one class by name BTN, that is button. Inside the BTN, we have another class BTN hyphenated success. Success means you want to change the color to green. So if I save this and then refresh it, have you seen how the color looks like? So let me change the value. I hope that one, you know it already. The value to, let's say, submit. Submit. Good. If I want to change this color to red using Bootstrap, I only need to change the success to danger, and then I will save it and then refresh it. So it will change this color to red for me. There are so many classes that you make use of. As I said, you only call classes. There's no need for you to start coding from scratch and the rest. Once you know how to use Bootstrap, you only call them by their class name because the codes are somewhere. That is why we copied these links over here. They are called the content delivery network. So the CSS codes are somewhere, and then they've given them some classes names. So we only call them by their class names. That means if you don't have your internet connected, if you create this, it is not going to work for you, because once I click on refresh, it will search the class name using this link from their website before it can perform the magic for you. But there's a way you can also work with Bootstrap offline, but that is not what I will take you through. Somebody is asking the question here. Why? I think it's how will you know the name of the class? Well, for that one, if you visit the Bootstrap websites, they are there. They are there. I hope you understand. For instance, if you want to change a color to green, you can Google it. Let's say Bootstrap green button. It will pop up, or it will show you how you can create green button using Bootstrap. Hope you understand. It will even lead you to get Bootstrap website. You see, we have buttons, Bootstrap here. So if you visit there, it will show you all the buttons that you can create using Bootstrap. So you have it here. So you could see that the first button here is button, or you can say input type, but this is what you are supposed to look at. It is the class that you want here. So the first one, if you want to create a button with a blue color, it is going to be BTN primary. The second one, if you want to create a button with this color, it is going to be BTN secondary. And then the green button is going to be BTN success, in that order. I hope you understand. So there's no need for you to chew this. As you start coding them, they will come. They will come. But mostly we use the success, danger, and then the rest. Let's say success for login, and then danger for logout. Or if you want to delete something from the database, you can use this one. Good. It's not only buttons. We have forms and the rest. They are all here. Pop overs, progress bars, two tips, and then the rest. But we are not going to learn Bootstrap into detail. So I just don't want to confuse you with Bootstrap. So let's move on. So as I said, we change this button to the red button, that is danger. And then if you want to change the button, the color to, you can also say primary. Button BTN primary. Good. So it will change the color to color blue. So this is what we are going to apply in our lesson. So now let's start coding. So let's clean everything from in between the body tags, what we created. So everything is going to be inside this file. Good. Before you start coding in Bootstrap, you have to create a container. A container. The container is just going to be something like, if you say container, I hope you all know it is going to contain all the codes or all the HTML elements within it. So we will first create a container, and then inside the container, we also create sub containers. Let me show you something here. when we look at this form, we have the parent container here. That is a stuff from this side, but you might not see it. If we don't add colors to it, you might not see it. And then within the parent container, we also have another container. We are only going to use divisions, that is div tags, in creating these containers. So we have the parent container, and then in between the parent container, we also have another container here. Even all these elements has been placed in containers so that they won't just be overlapping each other, just like that. So these containers are going to arrange our elements for us. So before you start coding in HTML, Bootstrap, you need a container. That is a div class with a name container. So press div / and then in between this, we have class. The class is supposed to be at where we have the opening tag. So you have the class. The name is going to be container, or you can say container fluid. Container fluid. And then in between the container fluid, you have to create a row. So another div tag, row. I would have to explain this in detail when we start. We start coding in Bootstrap into detail. So we have the div tag here with another class, row. That means it will create another container, but that is going to be beneath the first one, but inside, because you have the first container here, we have the second container here. Good. And then inside this container, that is where we create our form or the input tags. But we will need forms before. I will explain it later, like after typing in the input and the rest. We need form here. And then in between the form, that is where we are going to create the inputs text field. That is the inputs and the rest. So you have the first one is going to be the inputs with type text, because you have username. So let's refresh it here. Good. And then the next one is also going to be password. But we have to beautify this input. Because we are using Bootstrap, you have to beautify this input. So you have to put all this inside one div. That is another container. Because since we started with Bootstrap, you are just going to deal with containers. So we shall look at the container that will control only the, the divs, okay? So before we start, let me clean this. Inside the form, you create another division. With a class of form group. It means you are going to group the form elements. So let me go back. If we have the first container, that is the parent container, it spans the whole HTML, the whole browser. I hope you are getting me. Good. And then between it, we create another row. That means we are going to create another container within that parent container. Because that row, that container is going to take hold of the forms that you are creating. Because if you are creating an HTML document, it is not only one element that you will create. You can create a form here, you create a blog here, you create this here, you create this here. If you don't want them to mess up, you have to use containers, so that if you create this container for logins, it will grab the logins and place them somewhere. If you create a container for, let's say, a blog, it will grab the blog's content and then place them somewhere without overlapping them. So we have, that is why you created another container for the main form that we are going to create. That is, let me open this. I think that will even help. Good. So this is our form, and then this is what we've already created. So the first container spans the entire browser. And then the second container that we created, that is the div that we created here. That is the rule for the rule. Is going to be this container. I hope you are getting me. So right now we want to create the input. It means the whole container is going to hold these HTML elements. But if you want to create these elements, you have to create containers for all these elements so that they will not overlap each other. That is why I said before we start typing in the forms or the input fields, you have to create another container and then give it a class, form group. The class name you see here is boostrap class. I hope you are getting me. So between the class, that is this class here is going to put these form elements in order. So right now we are going to create the input. So you type in input, type is test, and the class. So you create the class here. The class is going to be form control. Form control. That is for the first one. Let's refresh it and see. I hope you can see that. Good. Without a form control, this class, let's see what happens. Save it, and then you see nothing is even showing up. Even if it were supposed to show, it won't be nice as using the bootstrap classes. So the first class, let's go back. Sorry, input, form control. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you
We
can.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, all right. Okay, so we have our form group here. We save it and then refresh. You could see this is different from the previous test boxes that we created. And then we want to create another test box also here. We have to copy the same thing that is from the form group. You copy and then you paste it beneath it. You save and then refresh. You could see that we have another one here. It's unlike the previous HTML that we were coding. You could see that before you can move this to the next line, you have to type in what do you call it, breaks, and the rest before you can move this one to the next line. And then you also have to create labels, because what you have here, you have a label here, email on top, and then password on top. So first label is going to be on top of this. That is the form group. So here you have a label. So the first label is going to be either username or email. So we have user name. Let's save it and then refresh. Good. And then we also have another label here. This is the first input. So the second input start from here. And then the second label is supposed to be in between this. So we have label, password. Let's save and then refresh. So we have username here, password here. Let's change this one to password. So the text property here is going to be password. And then let's refresh it. Good. Good. So we have this. We are going to dive into Bootstrap small, but that one, if you don't understand, just don't worry, because it won't be easy for some of you. But it is not necessary here, though it's very necessary, but it is not necessary in this lesson. But you need it before you can beautify it. You can see that we have the form here. If you are supposed to view this on a mobile device, it is going to look different. If I minimize it, you could see it's different on a mobile device. If I enlarge it, it is going to look different, because on a mobile device, you could see the form somewhere spans more than half of the mobile device. But if I enlarge it, it's supposed to be at the center, or you should enlarge it or something like that. So I'm just going to add some Bootstrap codes. I will explain it. I'm not just going to add them just like that. But just understand it. Don't put much of your attention on those codes, because you are not talking about Bootstrap. I'll find another time for that. If not, that you might be confused. Good. So what I'm going to take a look at is that in Bootstrap, we call something grades. That is the gradient system. It means the gradient system takes the entire screen as 12 divisions, something like, let's say 12 divisions. Let's say from here to here, 12 divisions. Let's say, so we have small boxes, 12 divisions. And then they also consider the various screen sizes that we have. So we have the smaller screen size, we have the extra smaller screen size, we have the medium screen size, and then the extra large. We are talking of big monitors and the rest. Laptops will be medium screen size, phones or tablets will be small screen size, and the smaller phones will be let's say extra smaller screen size. So you have to control this. When we say a website is responsive, it means no matter the device that you use, the contents or how the website displays does not change. I hope you are getting me. It does not change. Most of the times, there are some websites, if they apply Bootstrap, if you enlarge it on a laptop like this, you are going to see all the menus on top. If you minimize it, the menus will also tend to be a drop down because the device is too smaller. You cannot use what is on the web on the mobile device. So here they use or they make use of Bootstrap. So what you are going to do is that from here to here, as I said, from here to here is, let's say, 12 divisions. So if I change it, you are going to use classes. If I change it to column, let's say column 6. If I say column 6, it is going to span this to half of it because, as I said, the entire HTML or the entire browser is 12 divisions. So if I say column 6, it is going to span. If I use the division here, if I call column 6 on this division, it is going to span this to half of the screen. If I change it to column, let's say 4, it is going to be, I think 1/3 or something like that, because it will divide the 12 into 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4. So column 4 will span this to, let's say, this side. So what we normally used to do is that, let's say on bigger devices, we span it to, let's say, column, let's say 6 or column 4. That means the size is going to be something like that. It will detect the screen that you are using and then divide the screen into, let's say, if it is column 4, it will divide the screen, that is the 12, into 4, into 4, 4, 4, 4, and then it will select 1. So that is going to be 1/3 of the screen. But on smaller devices, for instance, this one too, they will capture the screen and then consider this to be, let's say, 12 divisions. That is on mobile devices. It will capture this to be 12 divisions. And then if I change the column to column 12, it means on mobile devices, I want to change the layout of this form to 12. So you call it by classes. Let's say I can say column SM4. That is, I'm talking of the medium, the smaller sizes screen, column SM4. That means on smaller size devices or screen sizes, it should divide the screen into 4 and pick 1 and then display the div that you are creating. If I say SS, that is X, let's say this, SS12. That means on smaller, that is extra smaller devices, it should cover the whole screen. Because if you are using a mobile device, a login form like this is supposed to cover the entire screen on mobile devices. But on larger devices or larger screen sizes, it's not supposed to cover. For instance, you have this one here. This one spans, I think, 1/3 of the screen because you have a division here, 1, another division here. So we use column MD, that is medium screen size, called MD4. That means it will divide the screen into 3 parts and then select 1. If I say call 12, it will span from here to here. But on medium devices, we want to span only 1/3 of the screen. So I will say call 4. You know, 4 out of 12 is 1/3. So call 4. So it will divide the screen into 3 equal parts and then select 1. That is on medium devices. But on smaller devices, you know, you can't make it too small. So on medium devices like this, you have to use call, then you call the screen size. That is column, COL, call, and then you call the screen size. So this, on a phone like this, you are going to get something like extra small. That is XS. So I will say call 12. If I say call 12, it means on medium devices, you should span this login form across the screen. That is from the left side to the right side. And then the reason why we created containers is that you could see that we still have some small spaces here. without the containers, this will span to the edge, which might not make it look nice. That is why normally we have to always create container fluid before we start coding. Good. So let's start beautifying this login form. So I'm going to create a div. But the div, the division, all these are supposed to be in between or within the division. So what I'm going to do is that I have to copy this code. I just don't want to confuse you. From the row, that is the form, from the row, I will cut it. I want to create divisions and then put them back. So I haven't deleted them. I still have them on my memory. So we copy it, we create div with class, with a class. So I'm now going to use the screen sizes. So call SM4. That is on smaller, smaller devices, smaller screens, not two smaller ones. Smaller screens like tablets and the rest. It will divide the screen into 4 and pick one. So call SM4. Then the next one is going to be call, that is on medium screens, call MD4. That means on medium screens like laptops and the rest, you should divide the screen into 3 and then pick one. Sorry, if I say 3, I mean 4 out of 12. So 4 out of 12 is 3. I hope you understand. Is it 3? So sorry, 12 out of 4 is 3. Good. So you divide the screen into 3 equal parts and then select one. That is on medium devices. So we move on and then call XS. That is extra smaller, like phones, devices. You should take the whole screen. That is from the left to the right. And then you could see that beside this form, beside this, we have some small spaces here. We can easily shift this. Like if you create it, it will be at this side. We can easily shift this from here to the middle by using CSS. We can also use Bootstrap. So let me see what we've gotten so far before we move on. So I'll paste the code that I copied in between the tags. So save. And then let's refresh it. So we have this. So you could see that because we are saying that on medium devices, you should pick 1/3 of the screen. That is called MD4. Call MD4. That means 4 out of 12, which is 1/3 of the screen. Or you can say 12 divided by 4. You are going to get 3. So we divided the screen into 3 parts. So you can see from here to here is 1, 2. That is called SM and then call MD. We use SM4, MD4, that is on those screen sizes. But we said SL, that is extra smaller devices, it should be 12. So you can see that on mobile phone, this login that you see here is going to span through the entire screen size. I hope you understand. So we have this here. Good. But you could see that if I open it wide, the form is placed at the left side instead of bringing it to the middle. So what I will do is that I will create an empty division. But because that empty division is going to take any element, you might not see. But what it is going to do is that it will push this form here to the middle. I hope you're getting me. So we can create another empty division on top of this one. We will open and close it over there. So we can say div. So we start calling the classes. But we are going to use the same classes over here so that it will create the same division. Copy. Good. So let's save it. I have the closing tag here. I have a reason for doing that. I will show you. You could see that it has pushed the form to this side. On medium devices, smaller or extra smaller devices, we said call 12 call soft. So it means no matter the screen size, like if it is small, no matter how small, too small it is, it will span the login to cover the entire what do you call it, browser or the screen. But you could see if I enlarge it right now, our login form has been placed at the center. This is because I've created another division here with the same properties as this one. But because that division doesn't have any elements, that is why you are not seeing those divisions over there. So it will only push this element to the middle because our login form is supposed to be in the middle. Good. So right now you create, I think we've created our label. So let me see what we are supposed to add again. And then we also have the placeholders here. You have email here, no, this place was supposed to be password here. So, you know, the email here is supposed to be inside the division, sorry, the input tag. So you have the input for email. Let's secure the codes. We have the label, username, the input for this one. Good. So we have placeholder. Username here. Let me maximize it. So we have username here. We save it. We move to where we have the password, placeholder. So we have password here. Good. So now we have to refresh it. Good. So we have username here, password. Yeah, just nothing. If you start typing, they will disappear. Good. And then we also have to create, I think we have a button. A button. Good. So you have a button here. The color of the button is green. So you know the type of bootstrap property or class that we are supposed to call. So where do I create the button? We have email, password. So that is under the password inputs. So we have this. You could see that we have the username tags here, followed by the label of the password, followed by the password. So you create another, it is going to be the same thing as this one. So you can even copy it right from where we have the div. So you copy this, copy, and then you paste it under. But this one, the type is going to be submit because you want to create a button. Sorry, submit. We are not going to give it any name. This one doesn't need any placeholder. It doesn't need any placeholder. What we need is a value. So the value, what do you want to place on the button? So we can say, we want to say login. That is the name we want it to appear on the button. Let's save and refresh. I think we have a problem with connection. Okay, let's check the course. Or let's code from scratch. So we have the division, we create a div, and then that one too is a form element. So it's going to take a class of form control, and then inside it we create an input. The type is going to be submit. So let's check this before we add the rest of the course. Okay, the thing even came. So we have this, and then the value is going to be login. We save and then refresh. Now we have to change this button to green. So we can say we call a class, a bootstrap class, to change the button to green. So btn hyphen success. So this will change the button to green. And then you have to span this button across the screen to make it nice, as we have here. So you could see we have the login here. So we are going to use a class of btn block. btn block. If you were supposed to use CSS, you only have to change the width. You say that you want the width of the button to be this, let's say 200 pixels or 500 pixels. We want the height to be, let's say 600 pixels or 30 pixels, but that is waste of time. So you have to use Bootstrap. So you only type in a class. This is one class, this is another class, and what I'm going to create here is another class. So we have to separate them just by spaces. So we have btn block. So it will span the login to cover the screen. Good. I think we have a problem at the back here. I think that is from the form control. Let me remove it and see. Save. Good. So we have this here. We have the button. Okay, let me remove this division. Okay, because I think we needed only those divisions for test fields. That is where we normally use form group and then the rest. But for buttons like this, there is no need for you to use form groups. So we are done with the login. We just want to add some small things to it to make it nice, just like the other one that we've been using. Let me open it. Okay, so what we are going to do is that we will push this to the middle. You know, it is at the top part, but logins are supposed to be in the middle of the browser, and then you have to also add borders to login. So you use some small CSS. Okay, where is the form I created? Yes. Okay. Good. So you could see that this one is having a border around it, and then it also has a picture at the background. So this is what we are going to work on. But here we are going to use CSS. We are going to code in CSS, some small CSS to arrange the elements for. So what you are going to do is that inside the folder that we first created, create another folder. Sorry, create another file. and name it. You can say style sheet dots css. So it's going to be style sheet dot css. Click on yes to save it. Good. Now you will drop this inside the Sublime text so that we can start coding in CSS. Now, the first thing we are going to do is to add a border. We have to add a border to the form that we've created. Though we've created a container or a div, but because we've not added any color to the border, it might not be visible. So we can add a border using CSS. We have three main ways of coding in CSS. It's either you code the CSS inside the HTML elements, or you can code the CSS at the header parts of the HTML, or you can also create a separate file and then you link both files. That is, you link the style sheet or the CSS to the HTML. So if you like, you can start coding here. But before you can start coding, you have to call the style property like this before you start coding in CSS. Like if you are coding inside the HTML. And then you can also code at the header parts. You have to first call the styling property, style, and then you code in between these header tags. For instance, if you want to add a border and then the rest, that is what you're supposed to do. But the best way is to code it outside. Then you can link those files. Because if you are supposed to type it here or code it here, you know the codes are going to be many. So you have to type the style sheet or the CSS codes in a separate file. So what we are going to do is that we will create classes for those CSS files. And then if you want to use them, we only call them in the HTML using their classes name, as we've been doing with the Bootstrap. So the first one I'm going to do is to add a container, add a border to this form. It has to get a border. So I'll give it a class name. You can give it any class name at all. You can give it a class name like form container. But you have to start with dots. That means you want to type a class name, so dots, form container, any name at all, container, and then you open your curly brackets. So all the codes, all the CSS codes that you want to type will be in this between these curly brackets. And then if you want them to function, the first thing is to link this style sheet to your code. And then the element in which you want it to use the CSS property, you only call them by their class name. Because right now we know this class is called form container. So if, let's say, we type in background color red over here, and we want to change this property to a background color red, we only call it by the class name. So we can say class, then we type in form container. So it will call that CSS property and then apply it to the HTML. So right now what we are going to do is to add some styling to the form. So what you are going to do is to add some borders. So CSS has a property called a border. That means if you want to add a border, so you have a border. This is the property. This is the property border. So followed by the values. So you type in or you bring your semicolon, colon, followed by the values. Or you can simply type border and you type tab. I hope you understand. So border. Now the first value that the border takes is the thickness of the the line you want to draw. You know borders. So let's say the thickness, you want it to be 2 pixels. You can change the values. So you have 2 pixels as the thickness, followed by how you want the line to be. You know, you have short dash lines, broken lines, and the rest. But we want continuous, what do you call it? Continuous or something like that. So we will select solid. The name is solid. So the thickness of the line is going to be 2 pixels. And then we want a solid line. And then the last one is the color. So you can Google the HTML color codes. If you want white, I think it's hashtag FFF, something like that. If you want black or gray, I think gray is DDD or something like that. So you let's maintain the gray color. So you have the border, 2 pixels. You want a continuous line, and then the color is going to be gray. So let's bring our semicolon. Let's see, let's check if you can apply this. So now we go back to our HTML form. We have to link this style sheet. The name is stylesheet.css. So you have to link this style sheet to our HTML file. And we do this inside the header. That is the header tags of the HTML. So within the header, you can type it anywhere. So you type in link, then you press the tab. So now, so the relation is all style sheets. The type is test/CSS, and the href, that is the hyperlink to the style sheet. Because they are all in the same folder, you only type in the name. So stylesheet.css. Good. We've linked our CSS file to the HTML, but it will not work. Why? Because we haven't applied it to any of the properties. So you have to apply it to a property before this can work. I hope you understand. So let me open the form. So now we have this form here. Let's go back to the HTML code that we created. We have it here. So you want to put this border around the form that we created. So you have to call the class, we have to call this CSS property using the class name. And we all know that the class name is form container, but you are not supposed to bring the dot if you are calling it inside the HTML. Good. But if you are coding in CSS, you have to bring the dot in front before you type in the class name. So you have to call the class. You have class form container. Let's save and then refresh. Good. I hope you can see a border around it. Good. I think we should use a black color. So we can say black. Let me check if only it will work. Okay, so we have a dark color here. But you could see that it is not all that nice. So what you are going to do is that in CSS, we call something padding and then margin. If I add a margin to, let's say a margin of 2 pixels to this same property, this will move away from the edge of the screen. Let's say a margin of 20 pixels, it will move from this side to this side. But if I add the padding works within this container. So if I add a padding of, let's say, 20 pixel, it means it is going to push these elements inside. You could see that they are too close to the edges. So what we can do here is to add some padding to it. So another property, we have pattern top. You want it to be 20 pesos. You can try the values. I think we have the problem. Okay. Pattern, oh, sorry. So, okay, we have pattern. So we want the top and down to be, let's say, 10 pesos. And then the left and right to be 20 pesos. Let's save and then check. Good. You could see that it has pushed the element inside small. But if we were supposed to add margins, margins works outside, but patterns works within. If you want this, you want to push this more, then you have to increase the value of this pattern. The reason why these elements works on this, or these values works on this, is that we have called this name or this class inside the form tag. So whatever we type here will be applied to whatever is in the form, or all the elements in the form. Good. And then you can also see that the form is found at the upper parts of the browser. We need to push it down. As I said, if I use pattern works within the elements. That is this division. Right now you've seen the division because I've added a border to it. Pattern works within. But if I want to bring a gap in between, outside, that is between this element and a different element outside, that is where we use margins. So if I want to push this down, we have margin left, margin top, margin down, and then margin right. Right now I want to push this down, so I have to create a margin at the top, and then the height to which, or the extent to which this will be pushed to the middle depends on the value you are going to give to the margin top. So inside our CSS, we are going to type margin top. Let's say we give it a value of 20 pesos. You bring your semicolon, save, and then refresh. If it is not okay, we will push it further. Good. But you could see it's too small, so let's increase it to, let's say, 200 pesos. Or I think 20 will be okay. Sorry, 200 will be okay. Save. And then refresh. Good. I think it's okay. So we now have our login form at the middle. Now we are going to add an image to the background, because you could see this one is having an image at the back. So right now we are going to add an image to the background. So we have to create another class too and give it a name. You can say background, you can say back, or any name at all. So I'm going to give it BG as back. Right now, if I start typing here, it is not going to take any effect because I have not called this class inside our HTML codes. So if you want to add a background image to it, well, all you need to do is to type background. Background. Okay, and then you bring a URL. That is the link to where your image is located. If the image is in the same folder as in this file, where this file is being placed, you only type in the name here. But let's say if the image is inside another folder by name images, let's say if the image folder has a name of images, you only type images / followed by the file name. If the file name is, let's say, GG, then you add the extension. You have JPEG file, JPG, and the rest, PNG and the rest. But if the image is found within the same folder where this CSS file is being placed, you only type in the image name. So right now, what I'm going to do is to place a very nice image inside this. If you want to download a nice image, you can go to pixels.com. You can download several high definition images. So you can go to pixels.com or something like that. Oh. There's a problem. All right, let me open the Chrome because I have those histories over there. So it will link me straight to the website. Yeah, pixels.com. When I'm done, I will zip the course and then send it to you on WhatsApp so that you can look through. So let's say, let me pick any image at all. Now, let me select a nice one. Let's say I have school. Type in school, the image that you want. I want it to be about school. So let's say I have this, select this one, and then you download. So I'll copy this image and place it inside the folder. So this is our folder, the HTML lesson. I will paste it here. And then rename it because this one is too long. So I have, let's say, a picture. But the file extension is .jpeg. So I can just copy the name, rename, and then I'll copy it and place it inside this. That is the background. Save. But if I refresh, nothing is going to happen. Why? Because we haven't called this inside any of our HTML course. So we go back into our HTML. Where should we call this background? Or where should we call this picture to be our background? It's supposed to be the entire body. The entire body. If you want to place it inside this, you only call the class within the form, and the picture would span across only this form. But if you want it to cover the whole background, then you select the body, or you can even add it to the container field. It's going to work. I'm going to add it to the body, so I will call it by the class name. Class. The class name is BG, and then you save. Good. So we have this to be our background, but you could see that the border is not all that nice as compared to the color over here. So let's change it to white. White. So we go back to our course where we have the black. We change it to white. You can use the HTML color codes. If you want to use the codes, you have to type in hash FFF, it's white. Or you can say white, something like this. It will also work. But normally I used to use the codes. So FFF is white. You can Google. You can see plenty of them. So refresh. Good. So we have this. But you could also see that all the text has changed to black, though that is what we did previously. By default, the color is black. But I want to change the whole form, that is all the text inside the form, to white. So we can call it, we can use star. Star means everything, all the elements inside the HTML form. Just like when you use star in database, let's say select star, it means select all. So the star here means all. So that means there's no need for you to even call it. If you bring star, it is going to apply what you're going to type in between to the entire element. So you want to change all the fonts to white. So you type in color, semicolon, hash. White is FFF. You save it and then refresh. Good. So we have this to be a login form. What is left? I think you can even submit this one. But you could see my own, I've added some small shadow at the back here. I think we can just add that one and end the lesson so that tomorrow we can start with coding in PHP and the rest. Or I can also take you through the basic steps. Good. So I'm now going to add some small shadow to the form. That one is very difficult for you to code from scratch. There are some things you are not supposed to code from scratch, as I said. So there's a website. If you want to add a shadow to your box, there's a website called CSS Matic. So you have CSS Matic. So this is the website. Now I want to create a box shadow. The elements are many. We have gradient, generator, border radius, noise, texture, and then box shadow. I want to add a shadow to my box. So this is the layout. So you just adjust this bars here to suit how you want your shadow to be. So let's say I want it to be something like this. Make it big. Okay. Okay, so if it is okay for you, what you can do is to copy the codes here. Copy the codes. You go back. Now you want to apply it to this element. And you know this is the form element. So you go to the CSS file where we have the form element. That is the form container. You paste the codes beneath it. Then you save it. Good. So I think you've now seen our border. So we shall end here, because if I try to continue, some of you might be confused. We shall end here. But because you are starting, that's why I took you through the basis. But if you become a big time programmer, logins like this, you will not even spend more than 10 minutes in quoting logins, because most of the codes are found online. What you need to do, you copy. Once you understand, you can edit it to suit your need. That's why I said if you want to be a programmer, you don't have to memorize the codes. All you need to know is to understand how the thing works. The rest are out there for you. You only copy, you paste, and then it will work for you. So I think for adding the heading, like this one, you can add it. Adding a heading like login is just simple. On top of the username, you type in login, but you are going to use the h tags. Simple. So that is going to be on top of this. The H1. That means you're going to make it big. So let's say log info, and then you save. Good. It's outside, so you have to make sure you bring it inside the form. So you cut it. Where do you have the form? So okay. Okay. And then we can also center it. So we have a CSS property that is test center. So you call it by class name, class test